Have you ever been so busy that you didn't have time for what mattered most? We've all been there before. Years ago, I was working and I got up early to go to work, 4:30 a.m. I had so much to do, and so I made a list of everything I needed to do in the next few hours. I didn't see a way to get it all done. Now, this list wasn't long because I was lazy or put off what I needed to do. It was just a lot of stuff that still needed to get done. So I'm about to jump into this work, and I felt like Jesus was inviting me to stop and spend some time with him, reading my Bible, praying, and just being with him. I remember saying to Jesus, I don't have time for this right now. There's so much that I have to do. I kept feeling that invitation to stop, so somewhat reluctantly I paused. I stopped my work and I began to read some scripture, and then paused to pray and just be with him. It wasn't really long, maybe 15 minutes. When I finished, I got back to work, and with a list that felt too long to get accomplished in the time I had remaining, I finished with an extra 15 minutes to spare. I remember thinking, how can this even be possible? There was no way. And then I just felt Jesus teaching me, if you make time for me, I will literally make time for you. You'll struggle to experience Jesus' best if you reject his invitation into relationship and rest. So many of us see busyness as a badge of honor and a normal way of life, but is that the way Jesus is inviting us to live our lives? Let's look at a moment from his life to learn more about what Jesus sees as life's most important priorities. Luke 10:38-42 says, As Jesus and the disciples continued on their way to Jerusalem, they came to a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. Her sister Mary sat at the Lord's feet, listening to what he taught. But Martha was distracted by the big dinner she was preparing. She came to Jesus and said, Lord, doesn't it seem unfair to you that my sister just sits here while I do all the work? Tell her to come and help me. But the Lord said to her, My dear Martha, you're worried and upset over all these details. There's only one thing worth being concerned about. Mary has discovered it, and it will not be taken away from her. I can relate to Martha. She starts out really well. She welcomes Jesus into her home, and then she gets really busy getting things ready for Jesus. And before you know it, she's upset with Jesus and her sister because she's feeling the weight of all the work. Have you ever felt that way? Martha falls into an unhealthy rhythm that what she was doing for Jesus mattered more than her being with Jesus. If what I do for Jesus becomes more important than my relationship with Jesus, then it's no longer about Jesus, and I have a priorities problem. Over the years, I've had many well-meaning people teach me how to work really hard for Jesus, but a lot less emphasis on how to have a relationship with Jesus. Jesus wasn't trying to teach Martha and us that making a meal is wrong or that working hard is a waste of time. Far from it. He is, however, speaking to the undercurrent of anxiety and stress that occupies our lives when we get too busy for what matters most and lose our way. See, there's something else significant we can learn from this moment in Jesus' life, and that is that Jesus cares way more about you than just simply what you can do. That awareness allows us to really hear the heart of Jesus when he says in Matthew 11:28-30, Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. His first desire is to have a relationship with you, and out of that relationship will be opportunities to live the life he's prepared for you. Each of us is a part of a follow discipline. That could be Bible, prayer, share my story, mentorship, or silence and solitude. And there's a beautiful practice that pairs well with these disciplines called Sabbath. Sabbath invites us to make space in our life and embrace a rhythm of life that can give us life. Sabbath is a rhythm that Christians have practiced throughout history. Even Jesus practiced it regularly. It's a 24-hour period of time set aside to stop all of our work, rest, delight, doing things that fill us with joy or recharge us, and worship, where we stop to look at the amazing God we serve, engage in the beauty of the world we live in, and celebrate who he is and what he has created. For some, when you hear worship, you may think of singing, and that's definitely one way. Recently, my family went to a local fair where we spent an incredible evening together as a family with friends, and when we went back to the car, I was just overcome with a sense of joy and delight. I had such a deep sense of gratitude for the amazing evening I had with my family, and with my arms out to my sides, I just kept thanking God for that night and the time we spent together. That was worship. Sabbath helps us to pause and put everything back in its proper perspective. That we serve an amazing God who loves us deeply, has sacrificed greatly for us, and desires a real and deep relationship with us. Yes, he also has things he is calling us to do and places and spaces to invest our lives, and we'll talk more about that the next time. But for today, we start with the top priority, and that is learning to stop, rest, delight, and worship Jesus. If 24 hours is simply unattainable for you right now, that's okay. Start with a few hours. You'll struggle to experience Jesus' best if you reject his invitation into relationship and rest. If you're interested in learning more about Sabbath and how to begin this practice in your life, we would encourage you to check out the free Sabbath course on practicingtheway.org. Get a few friends together and spend 4 weeks walking through this course, learning and growing together. Before we conclude this teaching time and go into some group discussion, let me read a quote to you from Pastor Rich Velotis to encourage you on this journey. Things that matter most never come easy. The greater the demand, the deeper the payoff. The greater the challenge, the more profound the joy when it is met. The more we die to ourselves and yield to Jesus, the more we come alive. This is the paradox of the Jesus way. If you accept Jesus' invitation to relationship and rest, you'll begin to experience Jesus' best. Thanks so much for joining us for Follow Up Sunday. We've got more to come and we can't wait for it. But right now we're going to pause, let you get into some group discussion, and I'll see you next time.